Thunderstruck.
Yeah, the Thunderstruck.
Oh, the sideways angle on a perfect shot. Can Leon defend? Is the question.
Oh, Kazan.
Oh! Leon makes the defense happen. Leon.
So, the maps. Everybody who plays this game has their own opinions on the maps, and seemingly everyone's rankings look completely different, even if some of those opinions are horrible and make you question their mental state. All of the maps in this game share the same basic shape and goal size, but that is it. Everything else is completely different. Each map has its unique barriers and a gimmick, much to the dismay of any Smash player. These gimmicks range from being fun to being completely insane. But at least this ensures that each map plays differently, so you can't just use the same strategy every time. Kinda. And my favourite main strategy is core control, because the alternative is painful. Core control is exactly what it sounds like, keeping possession of the core and preventing the enemy from having it, which does sound like the entire game, but trust me, there is worse. Some maps favour core control and others favour KO, and in this part I'm going to go over the 5 that I think are more core control focused, although that might be stretching the definition of core control a little bit. So I'm going to start with the OG. Ah yes, Ahten, the worst map for goalies, and therefore one of my least favourite because I refuse to learn forward. The reason this map sucks for goalie is the massive barrier that you need to defend. It's the hardest to defend in the entire game and it's not even close, so you have to play goalies with crazy speed or range. Usually both, but the forwards get all the space they want, so they are usually having a much better time. This map's gimmick is that 3 extra healing orbs spawn on each orb wave. While all other maps spawn 3 orbs, Ahten spawns 6. This may sound insignificant outside of maybe making KO harder, which is already more difficult on this map due to how open it is. This, however, is not the case when you factor in these 3 awakenings: Orb Dancer, Orb Ponderer, and Orb Replicator. To put them simply, Dancer gives you a massive speed boost, Ponderer reduces your cooldowns, and Replicator shares any effect an orb gives you with your teammates at a reduced strength. Although we haven't seen Orb Replicator in a long time, it was a little bit broken. But Dancer and Ponderer are still here as of writing, and while they are usually just okay items at best, they are still must-picks on this map specifically. Other than that, there's nothing really to say about this map. The reason it favours core control so much is because of how open it is, and the fact that it doesn't have any crazy gimmicks that makes people easier to delete from the game. You know, unless the goalie is an idiot and stands too close to the edge. Ahten just doesn't favour us idiots in general. Fortunately, I know a map that does. Oni Village is definitely a goalie map. The gimmick of this map is the speed strips on the side that gives players in the core a 30% speed boost when on them. They are cool, but there is nothing really crazy about them. The real issue with this map is the barriers. These barriers are the easiest to defend in the game, because they are small and have no pocket that attackers can try and keep the core in like many other maps. There are 2 of them, but one is entirely cosmetic. People will very often just completely ignore one of the barriers and just defend the other. This means that if there are 2 good goalies on an Oni Village game, the games can last for an eternity, unless one of the forwards can carry their team like crazy. And even then they will probably just end up throwing abilities at the enemy goalie for a minute straight. and it's for this reason that a lot of people don't like playing this map, because they have a chance of being trapped in Oni limbo. But if the game doesn't last forever, it could actually be pretty fun. It's similar to Ahten in that it's very open, which is what makes it more core control focused, and you can also do this. But I can definitely understand why some people do not like it. You know it's bad when one of our tournament casters has this sign.
I don't care, I hate this map.
I know there's a lot of NA players that watch my videos, so here's a bit of EU lore for you. This map, I believe, is actually solved by legendary player Ugo, who discovered that the optimal way to play this map is just to be so shit-faced that you forget you ever played it. Truly the GOAT. Oni and Ahten are basically the only two real core control maps. Beyond this, it's just more neutral maps that KO also works well on. The KO meta is just too strong, I guess. But that doesn't mean these maps aren't fun, although I'm not sure everyone will agree with me on this one. I'm not talking about the old one. It's gone, and not coming back. At least it better not be. I actually really like this map, and it probably has my favourite barriers in the game. Against good goalies and midfields, taking both barriers in one attack is actually quite difficult, or you can gamble for the insane shot right in the middle, which is way harder than other maps' double barriers. The main feature of this map though is of course the portals. The core and players can pass through them, but not any projectiles, making this the most confusing map for midfields or forwards to position on. So it's a good thing I don't play either of those roles. This can of course lead to some very funny goals, but also some very terrible passes from everyone involved, because half the time people don't look to see what is on the other side of the portal, they just hit the core through. There is also the fact that you can still use KO strategies on this map, because while it is very open, a lot of people group up in the pockets of the barriers, and when a lot of people are close to each other, a lot of damage is dealt. As I said before, I do like this map. Forwards can hate me all they want for that, I hate them too. The portals allow for more skill expression and cooler team play in my opinion, so it's cool watching actually good players use them for core control and positioning. Then again, even a lot of those good players don't really like Obscura. Is there a map that people, you know, actually like?
Just follow me, yeah.
It might not look like it, but Atlas Lab is probably one of the most neutral maps. The only thing preventing that neutrality is the giant black hole in the middle, which, as you might have guessed, is this map's gimmick. Anything in the outer ring gets slowly pulled towards the center, allowing you to make cool passes or shots like you're playing Gravstar Kraber. But when something touches the center of the black hole, it explodes, knocking back and dealing big damage to anything in the outer ring. And this is a guaranteed KO if it staggers you, unless you hit a corner. This also makes it one of the few maps that you can KO yourself on, which always makes a map better. The barriers on this map are great, and they are known for this angle, where if you are unlucky enough while attacking, the core can go all the way around without touching the barrier. If only this angle had a name. I do think this map is one of the best. There aren't really any people that actively dislike this map that I've come across, because almost any character can work here. And it has some funny bugs too. It's also just the perfect balance between core control and KO. It's not really controversial at all, which is surprising because most of the maps are, but out of all of them, there's one that stands above the rest in just how controversial it really is. You know, I could think of at least one way Inky's is similar to Oni. There's no way they fucking locked in Inky's. Oh my... One sec. Don't let the cutesy appearance fool you. Inky's splash zone is evil, especially for goalies. This barrier is a nightmare to defend, and if you lose it, the gimmick of the stage can be used. It gives the team that took the barrier a button, that when pressed will fire a death ray of water across the middle of the map, that only hits the enemy team. And if you get hit by it, you get a 12-second timeout pretty much instantly. And if the core gets caught in it, then it immediately gets pushed into a really uncomfortable spot for the defenders. And all this only happens to you if you are already losing the round. And if that wasn't bad enough, it turns the corners where the barrier was into a knockout zone, which they are not on any other map. And a lot of the time people will just die because they forget that is a thing. This is probably the least competitive map in the game, and is very rarely seen in tournaments. But it can still be in ranked sometimes, which is very unfortunate. However, if you are playing this map in customs with friends, it's a lot more fun. Because if you aren't playing seriously, you can do some very silly things here. Despite the gimmick, it's actually less common for people to die than you might think. The beams are very telegraphed, and while they are unavailable or on cooldown, the map is just as open as Ahten. On another note, welcome back to EU lore. I guess I'm making this a segment now because it's fun. EU is the most toxic region. This isn't really debated, but for some reason I see the most toxicity on Inky's, and I don't know if it's the map itself or if I'm just gapped. Probably a bit of both. Fortunately, more recently we've had ways to counter toxicity and give yourself better mental. The first being to listen to beloved goalie player Atta talk about good mental in this game for 17 minutes before you queue. Or while you queue, it is EU after all. The second and more recent one is the one I find better. Think of it as a thought exercise. Instead of blaming your teammates, there's always a better person to blame for how your games go. Kiratile. If you lose, it was Kiratile's fault, and therefore you should report Kiratile. Inky's is one of those maps that everyone loves to hate on, but some people actually like it for some reason. And honestly, I won't judge. I did say I liked Gates after all. Anyway. Even if some of the maps that favour it are interesting, I love core control in this game. It's by far more fun to watch and more satisfying to pull off than KO teams. But in the current state of the game, KO is usually much more appealing, even sometimes on maps like Ahten. But core control can happen, and when my team has synergy in a ranked game, or I see it in tournament, I genuinely love it, even if I hate playing on Ahten City. Once again, if you watch this video to the end, then thank you for watching it. The video taking this long wasn't my fault this time, I swear. I was hospitalized for nearly 3 months, so I also wanted to say thanks to all the people who sent me really nice get well soon messages. The video is over, but there's a couple things I want to add at the end here. Firstly, I have a Google form in the description that asks questions about how you feel about Omega Strikers, and if you have some time, then filling it out would really help me with a future project. Secondly, if you want Omega Strikers content that is more regular than once a season, then go watch Omega Stuck. We've been doing tournaments and other content together, so I am very biased. But his How Could Win series is very funny. Next up, subscribe. I know it's annoying when you hear people on YouTube say that, which is why I didn't put it somewhere in the main video and have it break the flow of everything. But it will seriously help me actually make these videos. And lastly, I was going to make a bit about demanding Sony emotes from Aesop after every vid, but he gave all of them to me instantly, so my demands are going to become more ridiculous. I am beaming this message straight to any Odyssey dev. If you are seeing this, you have my full permission to mess with my account in any way you like. Add stuff, remove stuff, break stuff, I don't care. As long as I can queue into a game, it does not matter what you do. I just think it'll be really funny. Please.